The pediatric wing of Mercer General Hospital occupied the fourth floor of the East Building, which meant it caught the morning light before the rest of the hospital did. This was either a kindness or an accident of architecture, and no one who worked there had ever been entirely sure which. The walls were painted in colors that had been selected by a committee to feel cheerful, and had instead achieved something closer to resigned optimism. A pale yellow that had faded over years into something the color of old paper, with murals of cartoon animals that no longer looked quite as friendly as they once had. Noor Malik had been a patient in room 412 for 11 days. She was 8 years old, small for her age in the way of children who have spent significant portions of their lives in places that ask more of them than places should ask of children. She had dark eyes that moved quickly, and a stillness to the rest of her face that doctors sometimes mistook for withdrawal, and nurses who had been doing this long enough recognized as something else entirely. She had brought 3 things with her when she was admitted: a spiral notebook with a blue cover, a pencil case with exactly 6 pencils of different colors, and a small brass compass that had belonged to her grandfather. She slept with the compass under her pillow. She used the notebook constantly. She was not writing stories, she was writing observations. The nurses on the morning shift had noticed this first. She would watch the medication cart make its rounds, and then she would write something down. She would watch the orderlies change the linen on the bed across the hall, and then she would write something down. She would watch the digital readout on the IV monitor beside her own bed, and then she would write something down. She did all of this with the unhurried precision of someone engaged in a project whose timeline was longer than the immediate moment. The nurse who worked the day shift on her room was a woman named Priya. She was 34 years old and had been a pediatric nurse for 9 years, which was long enough to have stopped flinching at the things that had made her flinch in the beginning, and long enough to have started flinching at different things instead. She was not a person who became attached easily. She had worked very hard at this. She was attached to Noor Malik. She was trying not to examine this too closely. On the morning of the 12th day, Priya found Noor sitting up in her bed with her notebook open, her pencil moving in small, deliberate strokes, her attention focused somewhere in the middle distance. "You're up early," Priya said. "The medication cart came at 5:42, Noor said. "It usually comes at 6:10, 28 minutes early." Priya checked the time. It was 6:20. "How long have you been keeping track of when it comes?" "Since I got here." Noor turned the notebook so Priya could see it. 11 rows, each one a date, a time, a duration, precise and legible. "It's been early 4 times, always on the same days." Priya looked at the notebook. She looked at Noor. "That's very thorough." "Something is wrong with the schedule," Noor said. It was not a complaint. It was a statement of the kind Noor made about things she had examined from several angles and found to be simply true. "I don't know if it matters, but I wrote it down in case it does." Priya did not know what to say to this, which was a condition Noor frequently produced in people who were expecting a different kind of child. She finished her morning checks, noted Noor's vitals, and walked back to the nurse's station, thinking about the notebook and the timing discrepancy, and the fact that she had been working this floor for 3 years and had never once thought to record when the medication cart arrived. Dr. Elias Voss had been the chief of pediatric medicine at Mercer General for 7 years, which was long enough for the position to have become less a job and more a condition of his existence. He was 51 years old, lean in the manner of someone who forgot to eat regularly, with the particular kind of authority that came not from being loud, but from being the person in any room to whom other people unconsciously turned when they needed to know which direction to face. He was a good doctor. He had been a great doctor once, in the way of people who enter medicine with a particular quality of attention, a nearly physical capacity to be present with another person's suffering and to think clearly inside it. He still had this, occasionally, on the good days, but the administrative machinery of running a department, the budget cycles and the compliance reviews and the board presentations and the 1,000 small negotiations required to keep the floor staffed and funded and functional had layered itself over that quality like sediment, and on most days, it took effort to reach it. He had a meeting at 8:30 with Dr. Sable Reeves, the hospital's chief medical officer, a woman of 58 who had come up through cardiology and who ran the institution with the combination of financial precision and clinical authority that boards of directors found reassuring. She was not unkind. She was not unreasonable. She operated from within a set of institutional priorities that she had not designed and did not always agree with, but had long since accepted as the territory she was navigating rather than the destination. The meeting was about budget reallocation. Specifically, it was about the pediatric ward's request for a second infectious disease specialist. The current specialist, Dr. Harlan Obi, was managing a caseload that Elias had documented as exceeding sustainable capacity by 30%. He had submitted this documentation in 3 successive quarterly reports. He had received 3 successive responses that acknowledged the concern and deferred action pending the annual resource review. The annual resource review was in 6 weeks. Elias sat across from Reeves in her office on the 7th floor, which had better light than his office and the kind of furniture that said things about institutional priorities without meaning to. He had his documentation. He had his numbers. He had 9 years of history with this particular conversation in various forms, and he was tired in a way that did not respond to sleep. Reeves looked at his report with the focused attention she brought to everything, which was one of the things he genuinely respected about her. "The numbers are compelling," she said. "The numbers have been compelling for 2 years. Elias," her tone was measured, not dismissive, the tone of someone who is not dismissing you, but is about to explain why the thing you need cannot happen yet, and is aware that this explanation will be inadequate. "The orthopedics expansion is committed. The cardiology equipment cycle is locked in. I do not have room in this year's capital allocation to..." Harlan discharged 2 patients last week who should have had another 48 hours of observation, Elias said. Not because it was clinically appropriate, because he had 4 new admissions and 1 set of hands. Reeves was quiet for a moment. She was writing something in the margin of his report. "I'll escalate the request to the board review agenda." "The board review is in 6 weeks. "I know when the board review is." The pediatric wing of Mercer General Hospital occupied the 4th floor of the East Building, which meant it caught the morning light before the rest of the hospital did. This was either a kindness or an accident of architecture, and no one who worked there had ever been entirely sure which. The walls were painted in colors that had been selected by a committee to feel cheerful, and had instead achieved something closer to resigned optimism, a pale yellow that had faded over years into something the color of old paper, with murals of cartoon animals that no longer looked quite as friendly as they once had. Noor Malik had been a patient in room 412 for 11 days. She was 8 years old, small for her age in the way of children who have spent significant portions of their lives in places that ask more of them than places should ask of children. She had dark eyes that moved quickly and a stillness to the rest of her face that doctors sometimes mistook for withdrawal, and nurses who had been doing this long enough recognized as something else entirely. She had brought 3 things with her when she was admitted: a spiral notebook with a blue cover, a pencil case with exactly 6 pencils of different colors, and a small brass compass that had belonged to her grandfather. She slept with the compass under her pillow. She used the notebook constantly. She was not writing stories. She was writing observations. The nurses on the morning shift had noticed this first. She would watch the medication cart make its rounds, and then she would write something down. She would watch the orderlies change the linen on the bed across the hall, and then she would write something down. She would watch the digital readout on the IV monitor beside her own bed, and then she would write something down. She did all of this with the unhurried precision of someone engaged in a project whose timeline was longer than the immediate moment. The nurse who worked the day shift on her room was a woman named Priya. She was 34 years old and had been a pediatric nurse for 9 years, which was long enough to have stopped flinching at the things that had made her flinch in the beginning, and long enough to have started flinching at different things instead. She was not a person who became attached easily. She had worked very hard at this. She was attached to Noor Malik. She was trying not to examine this too closely. On the morning of the 12th day, Priya found Noor sitting up in her bed with her notebook open, her pencil moving in small, deliberate strokes, her attention focused somewhere in the middle distance. "You're up early," Priya said. "The medication cart came at 5:42, Noor said. "It usually comes at 6:10, 28 minutes early." Priya checked the time. It was 6:20. "How long have you been keeping track of when it comes?" "Since I got here." Noor turned the notebook so Priya could see it. 11 rows, each one a date, a time, a duration, precise and legible. "It's been early 4 times, always on the same days." Priya looked at the notebook. She looked at Noor. "That's very thorough." "Something is wrong with the schedule," Noor said. It was not a complaint. It was a statement of the kind Noor made about things she had examined from several angles and found to be simply true. "I don't know if it matters, but I wrote it down in case it does." Priya did not know what to say to this, which was a condition Noor frequently produced in people who were expecting a different kind of child. She finished her morning checks, noted Noor's vitals, and walked back to the nurse's station, thinking about the notebook and the timing discrepancy, and the fact that she had been working this floor for 3 years and had never once thought to record when the medication cart arrived. Dr. Elias Voss had been the chief of pediatric medicine at Mercer General for 7 years, which was long enough for the position to have become less a job and more a condition of his existence. He was 51 years old, lean in the manner of someone who forgot to eat regularly, with the particular kind of authority that came not from being loud, but from being the person in any room to whom other people unconsciously turned when they needed to know which direction to face. He was a good doctor. He had been a great doctor once, in the way of people who enter medicine with a particular quality of attention, a nearly physical capacity to be present with another person's suffering and to think clearly inside it. He still had this, occasionally, on the good days, but the administrative machinery of running a department, the budget cycles and the compliance reviews and the board presentations and the 1,000 small negotiations required to keep the floor staffed and funded and functional had layered itself over that quality like sediment, and on most days it took effort to reach it. He had a meeting at 8:30 with Dr. Sable Reeves, the hospital's chief medical officer, a woman of 58 who had come up through cardiology and who ran the institution with the combination of financial precision and clinical authority that boards of directors found reassuring. She was not unkind, she was not unreasonable. She operated from within a set of institutional priorities that she had not designed and did not always agree with, but had long since accepted as the territory she was navigating rather than the destination. The meeting was about budget reallocation. Specifically, it was about the pediatric ward's request for a second infectious disease specialist. The current specialist, Dr. Harlan Obi, was managing a caseload that Elias had documented as exceeding sustainable capacity by 30%. He had submitted this documentation in 3 successive quarterly reports. He had received 3 successive responses that acknowledged the concern and deferred action pending the annual resource review. The annual resource review was in 6 weeks. Elias sat across from Reeves in her office on the 7th floor, which had better light than his office and the kind of furniture that said things about institutional priorities without meaning to. He had his documentation. He had his numbers. He had 9 years of history with this particular conversation in various forms, and he was tired in a way that did not respond to sleep. Reeves looked at his report with the focused attention she brought to everything, which was one of the things he genuinely respected about her. "The numbers are compelling," she said. "The numbers have been compelling for 2 years. Elias?" Her tone was measured, not dismissive, the tone of someone who is not dismissing you, but is about to explain why the thing you need cannot happen yet, and is aware that this explanation will be inadequate. "The orthopedics expansion is committed. The cardiology equipment cycle is locked in. I do not have room in this year's capital allocation to..." Harlan discharged 2 patients last week who should have had another 48 hours of observation, Elias said. Not because it was clinically appropriate, because he had 4 new admissions and 1 set of hands. Reeves was quiet for a moment. She was writing something in the margin of his report. "I'll escalate the request to the board review agenda." "The board review is in 6 weeks. "I know when the board review is." Elias looked at her for a long moment. She looked back. They had known each other for 9 years and understood each other well enough to have the argument they were having without needing to say most of it. 6 weeks, he said, not as an argument, as a weight he was placing on the table between them, so that they both had to look at it. He walked back to his floor. Noor had a visitor at 10 o'clock. This was unusual. In 11 days, she had not had many visitors. Her mother came in the evenings, a quiet woman with tired eyes, who brought food from home in containers and sat beside the bed and held Noor's hand and sometimes cried very softly when she thought Noor was asleep. Noor was not usually asleep. She did not say anything because she understood that her mother needed this. The visitor at 10 o'clock was not her mother. It was a man she had never seen before. He was young, not young the way her father was young, but young the way the medical students were young, with the particular alertness of someone in the middle of becoming something. He introduced himself as Dr. Reza Obi and said that he was covering morning rounds for his father who had a consultation. Noor looked at him. "Your father is the infectious disease doctor." "That's right." Reza set his tablet on the end of her bed and scrolled through her chart. He had his father's quality of attention in the eyes, something direct and unhurried that Noor recognized as belonging to people who listened to the answer after they asked the question. "Are you a doctor too?" "I'm a resident, 2nd year." Noor thought about this. "So you're learning?" "Every day." He looked up from the chart. "How are you feeling this morning?" "Better than yesterday." This was accurate. Her fever had been down for 36 hours, and the fatigue that had settled into her bones like weight was beginning to lift. "Dr. Obi, your father, he seems very tired." Reza looked at her. Something moved through his expression that he did not fully conceal. "He's been busy." "He's always busy," Noor said. "I've seen him on this floor every day, sometimes very late. There's another doctor, I don't know her name. She comes in the morning sometimes, but not as often. He covers when she can't." She paused. "In my notebook, I have how many times I've seen him on the floor each day. He was here 6 times on Tuesday. That seems like a lot." Reza was quiet for a moment. He was looking at her with an expression that people sometimes got when they encountered Noor unexpectedly and had not yet recalibrated. "You keep a notebook," he said. "I notice things," she said simply. "My Baba says if you notice something, it's worth writing down, because you never know when it becomes useful."
Your Baba sounds wise.
He's an engineer, Noor said. He says most problems are solved the same way. You watch long enough to see the real shape of the problem, and then you work from there. She looked at Reza steadily. Is your father okay? Reza finished his notes. He put the tablet under his arm. For a moment, he was not a second-year resident completing morning rounds, but a son who was worried about his father, and it showed the way these things show in people who are not practiced at concealing them. He's managing, Reza said. Noor wrote something in her notebook. Reza watched her do it without asking what it was. He finished the visit, told her the attending would be by at 2, and walked out into the corridor. He stood at the nurse's station for a moment. He had 6 more rooms on morning rounds. He had a lecture at noon and a simulation lab at 3. He had a father who had gone home at 11:30 last night and was back on the floor at 6 this morning, and who had not taken a full day off in 3 weeks. He had known all of these things before he walked into room 412. He had not, until a moment ago, had them stated back to him by an 8-year-old with a notebook, and his grandfather's quality of attention. And something about the act of being observed clearly, without agenda, had rearranged the weight of what he already knew. He picked up his tablet and went to his next room. The conversation happened on the 14th day, in the corridor outside the nurse's station, which was not where Noor had intended it to happen. She had intended to stay in her room, but she had been cleared for short walks in the hallway, and she had been walking when she heard the voices, and had stopped because stopping was the honest thing to do when you encountered a conversation you had not been invited to. Dr. Voss was standing outside the station with a man Noor did not recognize, administrative-looking, in the way that certain men in certain buildings were administrative-looking, which meant something about the posture and something about the shoes. They were talking in the low, controlled tones of people who were disagreeing and had decided to do it without raising their voices. The man was named Hargrove. Noor did not know this yet. She would learn it later. He was the deputy director of operations for the hospital's East Wing, and he had been in his position for 4 years, which was long enough to have developed strong opinions about efficiency metrics and strong feelings about departments whose budget requests exceeded their allocated projections. The request has been reviewed, Hargrove was saying. The position does not meet the threshold for emergency allocation. The threshold was designed for equipment acquisition, Elias said. It was not designed for... The threshold is the threshold, Elias. I have a specialist managing 30% over capacity. I have discharge decisions being made on the basis of bed availability rather than clinical readiness. I understand your concerns. You've said that. The process exists for a reason. The process, Elias said, with a flatness that was worse than anger, will conclude in 6 weeks. And between now and then, children on this floor will receive a standard of care that is lower than it should be because we do not have the staff to provide otherwise. And everyone in this building who has read the reports I have submitted knows this. Hargrove said nothing for a moment. He had the expression of a man who has made a calculation and is confident in its accuracy and does not enjoy having its consequences described to him. The board review is in 6 weeks, yes. Elias looked at him. And in 6 weeks, the position will be approved because the numbers will be even more unignorable than they are now. And we will all agree that it should have been done sooner. And children will have been discharged early, and families will have been given less time than they deserved. And one specialist will have spent another 6 weeks working at a pace that is not sustainable for any human being. And all of this will have happened because the process did not have a mechanism for the word urgent to mean what it means. Hargrove straightened slightly. It was not a concession. It was the movement of a man repositioning. I hear your frustration, he said. I'm not frustrated, Elias said. I'm accurate. He turned and walked toward the elevator. Hargrove stood for a moment in the corridor. Then he turned and walked in the other direction.
Noor stood very still by the wall. She had been holding her notebook against her chest without realizing it. The corridor hummed around her, the ambient sound of a working hospital, monitors and announcements, and the distant movement of equipment. She waited until both men were gone. Then she walked back to her room and sat on her bed and opened her notebook. She wrote for a long time. Dr. Sable Reeves did not typically make rounds on the pediatric floor. This was not negligence, it was jurisdiction. The floor had its attending physicians and its department chief, and a chain of clinical oversight that did not require the chief medical officer to be physically present among the patients. She trusted the chain. She had built parts of it herself. On the 15th day, she made an exception. She was not sure afterward exactly what had moved her. There had been a note left on her desk that morning, a single page, handwritten on paper torn from a spiral notebook with a blue cover. The handwriting was careful and slightly uneven. The handwriting of a child who has been taught to write neatly and takes the instructions seriously. The note had been left by the front desk attendant on the 7th floor, who had found it in the suggestion box that the hospital maintained near the main elevator bank on the ground floor, which was technically for patient and family feedback, and which almost no one ever used. The note said, "My name is Noor Malik. I am a patient in room 412. I have been here for 13 days. I am getting better, and I will go home soon. I want to tell you something I noticed. The medication schedule has been wrong 4 times since I arrived. The times are in the table below. I don't know if this matters, but I thought someone who makes decisions should know. Also, I want to tell you about the doctor who takes care of me. His name is Dr. Harlan Obi. He is on this floor every day for a very long time. I have written down how many hours I have seen him here each day. The table is also below. I know from what I heard that the hospital hasn't given him enough help. I don't think it's right for one doctor to do so much when children are sick. He doesn't complain. I have never heard him complain. But I think he is very tired, and someone should know. I wrote to you because you are the person who makes the big decisions. I found your name on the hospital board that lists the senior leadership. I hope this letter reaches you. Noor Malik, age 8, room 412. Below the letter were 2 hand-drawn tables. Both were accurate. Both were legible. Both contained data that Reeves had not seen assembled in this form before, which was itself a piece of information. She read it twice. Then she picked up the phone and called Elias Voss. Then she went down to the 4th floor. Priya saw her first, the way nurses always see things first, because they are the ones who are always present. She saw the chief medical officer step off the elevator in the pediatric wing at 11:15 on a Tuesday morning with the folder under her arm and the expression of a person who has received specific information and is in the process of determining what it requires of her. Priya said nothing. She watched. Reeves stopped at the nurse's station. She introduced herself to the nurse on duty, a courtesy that not everyone in her position extended, and asked for Dr. Voss, who was reviewing charts at the end of the corridor, and who looked up when he heard his name, and then looked at Reeves, and then looked at the folder, and then became very still in the way of someone who is recalibrating something significant. They spoke in the small conference room off the nurse's station. Priya could see them through the glass partition, but could not hear them. She watched Reeves set the folder on the table, and Voss look at its contents, and then look at Reeves, and then look at the tables in the letter, which Priya could not read from where she stood, but which she could see were small and precise, and written in a hand she recognized. She went back to her rounds. 40 minutes later, Reeves came out of the conference room and walked down the corridor toward room 412. She stopped at the door and knocked twice. A thing that Priya noted, that the chief medical officer of Mercer General knocked on the door of a patient room before entering, which was not unusual for a doctor, but was unusual for an administrator, and said something about the kind of person Reeves was when she was not in a meeting about budget allocations. Noor looked up when the door opened. She was reading, which she did for most of the afternoon when she had finished her observations for the day. The woman in the doorway was not Priya, and was not Dr. Voss, and was not any of the residents Noor had catalogued over the past 2 weeks. She was older, with the quality of stillness that Noor associated with people who had learned to be still because they had discovered that stillness was more powerful than movement in certain kinds of rooms. "Noor Malik?" the woman said. "Yes?" The woman came in and sat in the chair beside the bed, which was the chair where Noor's mother sat in the evenings. She introduced herself. She said she had received Noor's letter. Noor had not entirely expected a response. She had placed the letter in the suggestion box with the understanding that it might reach no one important and might change nothing, and that this would not make the act of writing it incorrect. Her Baba had taught her this, that the value of stating a true thing was not conditional on whether anyone acted on it. You stated the true thing because it was true. What happened afterward was a separate matter. But she had hoped. She was 8 years old, and she had been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she had watched a good doctor work himself past the edge of reasonable, and she had hoped. "You wrote about the medication schedule," Reeves said. "Yes, the tables are accurate. I can show you the original entries." "I believe you. And you wrote about Dr. Obi." "Yes." Reeves was quiet for a moment. She was looking at Noor with an expression that Noor could not immediately categorize, which did not happen often. It was not the expression adults wore when they were humoring a child. It was not the expression they wore when they were deciding how much to say. It was something more direct than either of those. The expression of a person who is deciding whether to be honest about something, that honesty requires some courage to say. "How did you know to write to me?" Reeves asked. "I found your name on the hospital leadership board, near the elevators on the first floor. It says you are the chief medical officer, which I understood to mean you make decisions about how the hospital works. I thought the things I noticed were about how the hospital works." Noor paused. "Was it wrong to write to you directly?" "No," Reeves said. "It was right to write to me directly." She said it simply, without the particular kind of brightness that adults sometimes used when they were impressed by children and wanted to perform the impression. She said it the way she would have said it to a colleague. "The medication schedule discrepancy is being looked at. I want to tell you that." "Do you know why it happens on those days?" "Not yet. We will." Noor nodded. She turned to a fresh page in her notebook and wrote something. Then she looked back at Reeves. "And Dr. Obi?" Reeves was quiet for a moment, that was not empty, but working. "That situation is also being addressed." "He doesn't know I wrote about him," Noor said. There was something careful in her voice. Not guilt, a concern for accuracy. "I didn't ask his permission. I don't know if that was correct." "Why did you do it without asking him?" Noor thought about this with the seriousness she brought to questions that deserved seriousness. "Because I thought he would say it was fine, and I didn't think it was fine. I thought someone needed to say that." Reeves looked at her for a long moment. Outside in the corridor, the hospital continued its ambient motion. The soft announcement over the PA, the sound of a cart being wheeled, the distant voice of someone being called to the third floor. The ordinary music of a place where people were sick and other people were trying to help them. "You're right," Reeves said. "Someone did." The meeting that Reeves called 2 days later was not a board meeting. It was smaller and more specific. Herself, Voss, the Director of Human Resources, and the Head of Finance for the East Wing. Hargrove was also present. He had been told to be present in a tone that did not leave room for the alternative. Reeves set Noor's letter on the table at the start of the meeting. She did not explain it at length. She said only that it had come from a patient, that it was accurate, and that it had prompted her to pull a set of records she should have pulled 6 weeks ago when the first request for an additional specialist had crossed her desk. She said this plainly, as a statement of her own oversight, and did not attempt to soften it or distribute it. It was hers, and she kept it. The records she had pulled showed what Voss's reports had shown, but with the additional context of the last 3 quarters, assembled together in a way that the individual reports had not communicated. When you placed them side by side, the pattern was not subtle. The pattern was clear, the way patterns that have been building quietly become clear when someone finally looks at the whole shape rather than the individual data points. Hargrove had looked at the records before the meeting.
He sat in his chair with the particular stillness of a man who has been accurate about the numbers and wrong about the implications.
The threshold process was followed correctly, he said. This was true. He said it not as a defense, but as an accounting, because he was not, underneath the administrative machinery, a dishonest person. The process produced an outcome that required a child to notice what we had not, Reeves said. She was not cruel about it. She was precise. That is also correct, and it tells us something about the process. The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end of it, a provisional approval had been drafted for an emergency allocation to fund the second infectious disease specialist, with full board ratification to follow at the scheduled review. The medication schedule discrepancy had been traced to a software conflict in the scheduling system that had gone unreported because the staff member who had noticed it had filed the report through a sub-channel that had not been checked in 6 weeks. A review of the reporting channels was added to the action items. Hargrove, to his credit, volunteered to lead it. Voss walked out of the meeting with the provisional approval in his hand and stood in the corridor for a moment before going anywhere. The approval did not undo the previous 6 weeks. He was clear-eyed enough to know this. But it was something. It was the right thing, arrived at by an unusual route. He thought about a girl in room 412 with a spiral notebook and a brass compass under her pillow, who had watched the world around her with the careful attention of someone who had been taught that true things are worth recording. He went back to his floor. Harlan Obi found out on the morning of the 17th day. Reza told him. They were in the staff room before rounds, which was where they had their honest conversations, the ones that did not need to be witnessed. Reza told him about the letter. He told him about the tables. He told him about the meeting, and the provisional approval, and the timeline. Harlan listened to all of it without interrupting. He was sitting with his coffee in both hands, and he did not move much while Reza spoke. When Reza finished, Harlan was quiet for a moment. He looked at his coffee. An 8-year-old, he said. With a notebook, Reza said. She's been documenting since she arrived, every day. Harlan shook his head slowly, not in disbelief, in a different kind of recognition. The recognition of someone who has been holding a weight for a long time and has just been told that someone else noticed it was heavy. Does she know? He asked. That the approval came through? Not yet. Harlan stood. He put his coffee down. He straightened his coat in the particular way he did before morning rounds, which was a small ritual of preparation that Reza had watched him perform every morning for 2 years. Only this morning, there was something slightly different in it. A release of something that had been held, a degree of tension that was not gone entirely, but was less than it had been yesterday. Let's do rounds, he said. Noor was cleared for discharge on the 18th day. Her fever had been gone for 5 days. Her labs were consistently normal. She had eaten 3 full meals in a row, which Priya had noted with quiet satisfaction in the chart. She was, by every clinical measure, ready to go home. Her mother came at 9 in the morning with a bag of her good clothes and sat on the edge of the bed and held Noor's face in both hands for a moment without saying anything. Noor let her do this. She understood what it was. Dr. Obi came by for the discharge visit at 10:30. He reviewed her chart, asked her the standard questions, answered her non-standard ones with the same directness he brought to all of them. Before he signed the discharge paperwork, he paused. He looked at her in the steady, unhurried way he had, and which Noor had come to recognize as the particular expression of someone who was about to say something true. "I heard you wrote a letter," he said. Noor looked at him. "I hope it was all right." "It was more than all right." He said it simply. "I want you to know that." Noor thought about this. "I just wrote down what I saw." That's exactly what made it useful. He signed the paperwork and gave it to her mother and told Noor to rest and come back if anything changed, and to bring the notebook if she did, which made Noor smile in the small, contained way she smiled when something was both funny and true at the same time. Priya came in to do the final checks. She had the discharge papers and the instructions and the follow-up appointment card, and she went through all of it efficiently and without unnecessary ceremony, which was how she preferred to do things. At the end, she stood for a moment in a way that was not entirely professional and slightly beyond what the discharge checklist required. "You take care, Noor," she said. "I will," Noor said. She looked at Priya with the steady, dark eyes that had been watching this floor for 18 days and had seen more of it than most people who had worked here for years. "Thank you for the granola bars." Priya laughed, a short, genuine sound that surprised both of them. "You noticed I always brought the same kind." "You brought them when I seemed like I was having a hard day," Noor said. "I noticed that too." Priya looked at her. There was a fullness in the moment that was not appropriate to comment on, so she did not. She made a small sound of acknowledgement and went back to her station, because there were other patients and other rooms, and the floor did not stop for anyone, which was both the hardest thing about this work and the thing that kept it going. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor, and Noor walked out with her mother and the bag of good clothes and the spiral notebook with the blue cover tucked under her arm and the brass compass in her pocket. Her grandfather's compass, the one that pointed north regardless of where you were standing. They crossed the lobby. The morning light came through the glass doors in the flat, patient way of light that has been arriving every morning for years and will continue to arrive without requiring anyone's permission. Noor stopped at the suggestion box by the main elevator bank. She took a piece of paper from her notebook and wrote something on it and folded it and put it in the box. Her mother waited without asking. They walked out through the doors and into the ordinary city, the traffic and the sound and the autumn air, the world that had been continuing its business while Noor was inside the glass and pale yellow walls of the fourth floor, learning the specific rhythms of a place through attention and patience and the simple act of writing down what she saw. Her mother took her hand. "What did you put in the box?" her mother asked after a moment. Noor considered. "A suggestion." Her mother looked at her. She knew better than to ask what kind, because Noor's answers to that kind of question always required more processing time than a sidewalk conversation allowed. They walked. The note in the suggestion box read, "I was a patient here for 18 days. I got better. I wanted to say that the nurses were very kind and the doctors worked very hard. I think the people who work in difficult places for a long time sometimes forget that other people notice. I noticed. I also want to suggest, please check the reporting channels. Sometimes something true gets sent to a place where no one is looking. It would be better if someone was always looking. The suggestion box is good, but most people don't use it. You might want to put one in the pediatric wing. Children notice things. They are in there for a long time and they pay attention. It might be useful to ask them. Thank you for the good care. Noor Malik, formerly of room 412. The note was found by the front desk attendant at 11:40. She read it twice. She was a woman of 26 named Celine, who had been working this desk for 8 months and who had developed, over the course of those 8 months, a particular skill for identifying pieces of paper that needed to go to specific people. She made a copy of the note. She put the original in the suggestion file. She sent the copy to Dr. Reeves's office with a note of her own that said simply, "From this morning's box. Thought you should see it." Reeves read it at noon. She sat with it for a moment. Then she picked up the phone and called the head of the patient experience team and told him she had a proposal for a new initiative and asked him to come to her office at 2. She did not tell him yet where the proposal had come from. That was a story that would require more than a calendar invitation to tell properly. But it would be told. She was certain of this. Some things, once they have been named clearly by someone paying careful attention, do not go back to being invisible. They simply wait to be acted on.